We're going to be talking about Elf, all the way from forced perspective, 3D animation, stop motion. There's so many good things to unpackage here. Oh boy!
Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. When you think of the movie Elf, the first thing you probably do not think of is special effects and visual effects, but there is a lot of fun stuff in this that Nick and I have always loved, and I'm sure you've noticed as well, but it's fun to actually draw attention to that and just focus on that in an episode of AsArt Visual Effects Breakdowns. So Nick, we love forced perspective, we love claymation and stop motion, things like that, and we get all this stuff in this movie. So you want to start off with this?
Yeah, it was really cool because Jon Favreau, the director, he wanted this movie to stand the test of time. And at the time, he was looking at like Polar Express and other, animated movies. And he's like, that's not going to last. And that's not going to hold up. So let's go as much practical as possible. And that's when they're like, let's do forced perspective. And the first day, they took the whole day to set up the shot and they didn't even shoot anything. So the execs got really nervous and everything. And this is the shot. This is the shot where they're all sitting down in the school and everything. And then the next day they finally went and they shot it. And right away they took the film to go process it so they can view the shot. And they were like, okay, this is going to work. But then they're like, this isn't going to work. This is going to be, we have to figure out a way to do this if it takes this long. So they set up a night crew. So the night crew would set up the shot for the actors to come in and do the forced perspective shots. There were 47 forced perspective shots in this movie. Not all of them were used, but that's up there. That's a lot of shots.
Yeah, that's a lot. And that is the way that they do a lot of this stuff, not just for forced perspective, but everything. One of my former students, he was working on, they were shooting some commercials for Conan O'Brien, and they were shooting some commercials, and they set up all the green screens and I forgot it was green screens, just the sets. All that was set up the night before. So when Conan O'Brien and the guys came on, they could shoot the stuff really quick. They didn't have time to wait while they were setting up. They wanted all that stuff set up beforehand. So you can imagine with how technically not difficult, but time consuming setting up a forced perspective shot would be. You would imagine you want to have that set up ahead of time. You can imagine how fun that would be. And it's funny, they still had to send it off to get processed before they could say, for sure this is going to work. One of the cool things you think about forced perspective is you can see it right away, but still they're like, let's get this processed right away. It's just so we know for sure.
Yeah, they were very nervous. The budget wasn't the biggest too, so and they were really taking a chance on it. And the other fun one too that everyone thinks about is like when Buddy sits on Papa the Elf's lap. Right?
Oh yes,
and
that's so
that's
funny.
set up where he sits on a kid with the legs, and the kid is laying down, and so the kid's legs are, and then 10 feet back is Papa Elf, and he's sitting there
so cool.
to get that
I
shot.
did not know that. I did not know that. But it looks so funny. It's so perfect. I mean,
I think the other one that was fun too was the bicycle one, where they have a kid, and then they have like a 4-year-old kid's hands on his shoulder hiding behind the kid, and then in the back you have Papa Elf going like left and right.
Oh, that's so funny. But you know what, having to do it traditional like that probably gives you even funnier, more fun results than trying to do it visual effects would probably give you too. I feel like, I mean, maybe the visual effects sometimes gives you more flexibility to tune it exactly what you want, but those forced perspective shots tend to be really, really funny in this movie. Now,
and they
how it was
the storyline, big time. The jokes,
but how
totally land, and it sets the tone for the whole movie. Like seeing him in the shower, even like the whole like tiny set stuff and all that. The toilet, when he's like pissed off and he sits on the toilet and he's like, you know, I don't want to talk or whatever, He's like on that tiny little toilet.
That's so Now, how it is for them acting, I don't know, because they had talked about in the behind the scenes for Lord of the Rings, they had talked about how, it's really hard, like Frodo and Gandalf talking about the ring, trying to have a casual conversation. And, Gandalf's looking here, Frodo's looking over here, and they're not supposed to look at each other, but they're supposed to act like they look at each other, and they can't look at each other for that eye line. That can be, kind of off-putting as far as acting goes. So I'm not sure if this was more difficult for them in this context in this movie, but as far as payoffs, oh my gosh, it hits perfectly as far as the story beats and the comedy and stuff. It's so fun. Yeah.
And then this movie was written almost practically with is it Rakin and Bass? What is it? Is it Rakin Bass? That's the guys that did the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion.
And they also did The Hobbit, the
and
music
The Hobbit.
And The Hobbit.
Is it Rakin?
Ranklin, I think. Ranklin, I think.
But basically, so this whole story was inspired by that. And then when John comes in to direct it, he was like, I want them to dress just like them. I want the green outfits. I want the white. I want the white set.
So cool.
I want everything to look just like the stop motion. And then they're like, okay, cool, yeah, we can probably get the rights to that, whatever. They're filming and they're like, okay, we got to find a stop motion crew, which they did, and which we're going to talk about. But I just thought this was so interesting. And then halfway through production, they get a warning like, yo, our lawyers looked at this. We're going to get hit big time for copyright because, we don't have the thing. And then they're like, what are we going to do? And they're like, can you change his green outfit to blue? So it's not the same outfit and blah, blah, blah. So they're like, okay. Most of the movie's already shot. So like, are we going to reshoot everything? And whatever's left, we're going to have them shoot in a green outfit, then also shoot in a blue outfit. And then are we going to digitally composite it where we're going to change it blue afterwards? And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, can you imagine all the shots you would have to do to change his outfit blue? How many rotos that would take and all that? Oh my gosh.
I mean, and if you think about it from a studio perspective, either you rebuild these sets, reset up the locations again and try and get the permits again, or no matter how much it costs in roto or whatever it is, you just pay some poor, guys to do the roto for that in order to color. That would make more sense. And that's probably, that would be the path.
And it totally does. Cause you talk about permits, all the shots in New York City was shot with like a guerrilla crew where basically they were there was no actors that he was interacting with. It was just people in New York. They had hidden cameras and stuff, and he would just go up to people and react. And that the guy that's dressed like Santa, he's red in a beard. He was just a guy in New York who looked like Santa. He was like, Santa, whoa, you're not Santa. Like he literally did this to random people like in New York. Yeah.
Really? So how did they have to get release forms from all these people?
I don't know about any of that.
Really tricky.
Crazy.
I feel like, wow, that's crazy? Interesting.
They probably had to do it for people's faces that were shown, but if they were just like background, but like there's that shot where he's walking in New York with the crowd, like that's literally him just walking in New York.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. Wow.
It's so cool, right? Like
that
there's so
is
many cool little things about this. It's so funny because like you can see why this is one of the best Christmas movies. Like,
and when was this shot again? This was,
like
Will Ferrell was already
early 2000s,
big
probably.
by then. I mean, he was already big by then, though, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'm guessing it was like early 2000s.
I wouldn't have even thought that Will Ferrell could have just walked around the streets of New York and actually gotten footage like this.
So basically, when they were making this movie, he like finished filming Old School, and the only other movie he had at the time was Night at the Roxbury, and that wasn't a hit at all. So he wasn't.
So this was right before he blew up. So this is the last opportunity. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was another crazy story too. Like since Old School came out and it did so well, they wanted to take the like happy ending of Elf and change it. The studio wanted to be more like crude humor like Old School, so it matches more of Will Ferrell's character. So they actually took the final edit away from John. And they took it and they did their own edit, but the crew got together like, whoa, you took all the heart and soul. Like they literally, it would end with Santa flying off and then the movie ended. There's no like connection to the book and like what happens with the job afterwards. And it's just like, there was like, and they were like, what the heck is this? And it was like a whole thing. The crew like revolted and were like, no, we have to have the John edit. And we're like, okay, we'll give you the Jon Favreau edit, They gave it back.
That's cool that the studio actually caved back. How seldomly does that happen? That's very, very rare.
They're like,
that's cool.
it's only a 30 million. I think they only put like 30 million into this movie. Isn't it crazy? 30 million. And you know how much money they're probably making off of Buddy the Elf now? It's just crazy.
Yeah, every Christmas.
Anyways, I got a little bit off topic there, but let's talk about the stop motion. How good is that stop motion? It almost looks like it's from the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yes.
It looks so good, and the way it's comped in looks so good too. Like it looks clean and it holds up so well.
And it's just, it fills you in on the story beats so well. It's not just a little extra thing where it's like, oh, that's cute, that's funny, but no, it's a good little bookend type thing, and it I don't know, it feels central to the story in a way that if you didn't have it in the movie, you would most certainly miss it. It's not just there just for fluff and just because Rudolph, that show had it.
Mm-hmm. Such a good job. And I'm happy they got the snowman in there because that's like ripped straight from the original too. It's so
it's
good.
so fun.
Like,
It's so
like,
fun,
come on,
yeah.
how cool is that? That's so sick. Like, bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad. You know, just so many good. Those characters did so well, and it was so funny too because the studio was going to pull the budget for the stop motion. They were super worried. So John asked the stop motion production company. It was three brothers. Oh, I can't remember the name of the company, but he asked them to get their shots done for the preview because he's like, if the stop motion isn't in it, I don't know if they're going to fully like this movie. You know, like he wanted to make sure the right elements were in it to show like, hey, we're on the right path. This is going to work kind of thing for the movie, and not just show like, I think they had like a character in like a snowman suit walking by, you know what I mean? Like, you know, to have the actual stop motion, and they were able to get it done in time too. So all the stop motion was done in time for the whole like test showing for the studio, which was so crazy. Like,
so he was worried that they were going to cancel the stop motion.
Yeah, and
budget?
He really wanted the stop motion. He really wanted, because in his vision, he's like, we have to make it look like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like, and you know, stop motion. So I just thought that was super cool. Boop 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 boop. Oh, okay. Now we got to talk about the 3D stuff. John, did any 3D things pop out to you at all while viewing this movie? It was like obvious, like, oh, that's 3D animation, and that's a model on blank blank blank.
I mean, you got some.
Once I say it, you're gonna say like
stuff
yes.
and things like that, right? I mean, you
yes,
got
the sleigh and the reindeer. Perfect. I knew you were gonna say it. John.
I was like, is this a
VFX
trick question? Is this not?
No, I was trying to give you a layup there, buddy.
Yeah, I was like,
you made it sound like you're shooting half court.
Okay.
You're like half court shot. Let it rain. But
this is how AsArt goes, you guys. We suspect each other of foul treachery. You know,
I wasn't trying. Well, that was all real, John. That's called Christmas. That's called Christmas magic.
Christmas magic.
Well, okay, so obviously when they're in the sleigh and they're flying around, it's a blue screen, right? And they're like acting on a blue screen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the sleigh is, yes, John, you got it right. It's 3D. And the reindeer too, when they're flying, it's 3D. So that's like a full 3D, like, which is good. That wasn't claymation because it was in the real world, kind of. It wasn't in the North Pole. So we needed that to complete the story. And it stands out a little bit now. Like you can tell, like, you know, I was able to catch some stuff. But overall, the motion blur, you know, it moves so quick and stuff. It really, you have to go frame by frame to really be like, oh, this is, you know, this is bad. But the one other thing that was 3D, which I don't know if you knew it was 3D, the snowball fight. Every snowball almost when they're getting hit and like running underneath the bridge, that's all 3D. Did you know that?
I suspected. I didn't know for sure because I hadn't watched behind the scenes. Well, I just assumed it was because there's no way they're going to get all those to land in that exact manner that they want. It was more of a practicality thing more than the way it looked, I guess. But
no, totally.
And you know what I would say is, did the sleigh and the reindeer maybe look a little bit 3D? Yeah, but the goal was, at least from what you were saying, John. I'm not on a first name basis with John Favreau. The way that Nick is, by the way, so I use his first and last name. I just got tired of saying the full name over and over again. But so he kept saying John. I'm like, why is he talking about me? Oh, he's talking about the right. But so for me, if it's not drawing your attention to it, as taking you out of the experience, then it's working perfectly fine. And the sleigh and the reindeer never take you out of the experience, so it works perfectly fine for what it needs to. Whereas Polar Express and some of these other things that are still fun, fine movies, they were just trying to push the envelope, and that's great for the time period, but very quickly they date themselves, and they don't hold up any as well anymore. And, you know, just as a quick example, outside of this context, like the game Final Fantasy VII, the original version, when it came out back in the, you know, late 90s, looked amazing. Everybody's like, never going to get better. This is as good as it. Now you look and they have like squares for hands, like you don't even have fingers, and they've completely remade it. And that remake someday is going to look bad as well. But in this, like the reindeer and the sleigh, you know, totally work.
Everything holds up.
And the snowballs, I had a suspicion that they were 3D, just the same way that, you know, from watching behind the scenes in Titanic, all the breath was composited in because they wanted to be able to control that. But you don't think about it. The snowballs don't look fake, but just for placing the way they want, I would imagine they'd been 3D. But it worked great. And that was a fun scene too with the whole snowball fight. Was hilarious.
Fun. This movie overall hit all the beats right. It had the comedy beats, it had the emotional beats, it had the Christmas magic beats, and some of the best one-liners to this day, like, and I'm singing and I'm here and I'm singing
And it keeps that all the way through, not only with the comedy, but the effects when they're there aid the story at every step of the way. And if you guys have been around this channel for any period of time, that's one of the big things we always talk about is we appreciate visual effects. We appreciate them vastly more, special effects, visual effects, whatever it is, when they're aiding the storytelling. And we tend to love movies where they use that to aid the story. And we tend to watch and maybe appreciate when the effects look amazing, but tend to be a little bit more sad when, people are slaving away their lives to get these shots done, but they don't aid the story, or it's not really to their benefit, I guess.
Yeah, like The Matrix. By the way, subscribe. We talked a lot about The Matrix, and there was a lot of the VFX shots. Like, they were super beautiful, and we know they made a lot of changes, but was it for the benefit of the film, like for the storytelling, purposes? Like, there were some moments where, like, the action scenes were great and stuff, but it's like, we're not even connected to a lot of the main characters there. You know what I mean? So go check out those. I know John wants to butt in because he loves The Matrix, and he is in The Matrix currently. He doesn't have his glasses on yet, but anyways, like, we had a fun conversation about it. We talk about VFX stuff here, from Call of the Wild to Clifford the Big Red Dog. I mean, that's another dog. I guess all we do is dog VFX. No, we also do a lot of cool action stuff, and even Korean films like Parasite and The Host. We love to cover whatever we can. We're open for other movie titles. We're super excited.
Yeah, for sure.
This is just a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays video from us, and thank you so much for all the subs this year. We were very fortunate this year to have so much growth, and we really want to thank you. And it's been so much fun to be on this journey, and on TikTok too. Thank you too. If you follow us on TikTok and you're here, it's been so much fun just growing with you guys. This is amazing. Merry Christmas.
And if you guys have not seen the movie Elf before, do yourself a favor. Check that out online. Was it HBO Max? Is that what it was on?
HBO Max.
HBO Max. Whatever you have to do, check that movie out. Great visual effects, great story, great comedy, really, really fun stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt Force Perspective.
Merry Christmas.